What if the one person God chose to save an entire city spent the whole time trying to run away from the assignment? What if obedience was the thing standing between thousands of lives and total destruction, and the chosen messenger just said no? That is exactly what happened in the Book of Jonah. And I promise you, this 4-chapter story contains more wisdom about human nature, divine mercy, and self-deception than most people ever stop to unpack. So let us get into it. God approaches a prophet named Jonah with a direct command. Go to Nineveh, the massive capital city of Assyria, and preach against the wickedness happening there. Simple enough, right? Except here is the problem. Nineveh was the enemy. The Assyrians were known for their brutal treatment of surrounding nations, including Israel. Jonah knew exactly who these people were. And instead of heading northeast toward Nineveh, Jonah turned around, walked down to the port city of Joppa, paid his fare, and boarded a ship sailing in the completely opposite direction, toward Tarshish. He was running from God. Now here is the first moment I want you to sit with. Have you ever received clear direction about something you needed to do? Maybe not audibly, but deep in your gut you knew, and you chose to go the other way because the destination made you uncomfortable? Because the people involved were not people you felt deserved your effort? That is Jonah in chapter 1. He was not confused about what God wanted, he was simply unwilling. But here is where the metaphor gets interesting. God sends a violent storm so severe that even experienced sailors, men who had seen rough seas their whole careers, were terrified. They started throwing cargo overboard to lighten the ship. Meanwhile, Jonah was below deck, asleep. There is something deeply symbolic about being in the middle of a storm you caused and being completely unconscious to the chaos around you. How many times do our choices create turbulence for the people around us while we remain completely unaware of the damage? The sailors eventually wake Jonah up and cast lots to figure out who is responsible for this catastrophe. The lot falls on Jonah, and to his credit, Jonah confesses. He tells them to throw him overboard. The sailors initially resist, trying every other option first, but eventually the sea leaves them no choice. They throw Jonah in. Immediately, the storm stops. And in that moment, the pagan sailors, people who did not even worship the God of Israel, feared God greatly and made vows to him. The outsiders had a spiritual awakening before the prophet did. Let that sink in. Now we get to the great fish. God appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah, and he spent 3 days and 3 nights in its belly. 3 days in complete darkness, surrounded by stomach acid and silence, with nothing but his own thoughts and the weight of his choices. And it was there, in the most uncomfortable place imaginable, that Jonah finally prayed. He cried out. He acknowledged that salvation belongs to God, and the fish vomited him onto dry land. Here is the metaphor that should stop you cold. Sometimes the place that looks like your end is actually the place God designed to turn you around. The fish was not punishment. The fish was provision. It kept Jonah from drowning. It gave him time to reflect. It delivered him exactly where he needed to be. What if the difficult season you are currently in is not about destroying you but redirecting you? God speaks to Jonah a second time with the same command. Go to Nineveh. And this time, Jonah goes. He enters this enormous city and delivers his message. In 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. That was it. No elaborate sermon, no pleading, just 8 words of warning, and the entire city responded. The king took off his royal robes, put on sackcloth, sat in ashes, and issued a decree that every person and even the animals should fast and cry out to God. Every single person repented, and God relented. He showed mercy. Now you would think this would be the best possible outcome. Lives saved, mission accomplished. But Jonah was furious. He literally told God he knew this would happen, and that was why he fled in the first place. He did not want Nineveh to be saved. He wanted them destroyed. He was so consumed by his own anger and sense of justice that he could not celebrate mercy when it was extended to people he considered his enemies. So Jonah goes and sits outside the city, sulking. God causes a plant to grow up overnight and give Jonah shade, and Jonah is delighted by the plant. Then God causes the plant to wither the very next morning, and Jonah is devastated. He says he is angry enough to die over a plant. And then God asks him the question that ends the entire book. You had compassion on the plant, which you did not work for, which you did not cause to grow, which appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I not have compassion on Nineveh, a city of more than 120,000 people who do not know the difference between their right and left hand? God never actually answers Jonah's anger directly. He just asks a question, and he leaves it open. The book ends there. No resolution for Jonah emotionally, just a mirror held up to his face. So here is what I want to leave you with. Are you more like Jonah than you want to admit? Are there people in your life, people you have written off, people you secretly hope do not receive grace, whose redemption would actually make you angry? Jonah's real problem was not disobedience at the beginning. His real problem was a heart that had decided who was and was not worthy of compassion. And that is a prison that looked nothing like a fish belly, but was just as dark. The story of Jonah is not really about a whale. It is about the dangerous comfort of deciding you already know who deserves God's mercy, and the terrifying possibility that the answer might be everyone.